Welcome to the show we like to call For the Love of Real Estate, where we dive into what it means to buy or sell a home in today's world. Join host Jill Elliott, Dallas broker associate and former radio personality, as she marries her two loves, radio and real estate. She's going to have you asking yourself, for the love of real estate, should I tackle my fears and buy, rent, sell, or remodel?
Hello and welcome. Thanks so much for joining me today. And if you can, show some love and subscribe if you haven't already. And here is one reason to subscribe. Say hello and welcome back to Ace, Kansas City agent who needs no introduction. Mike Connors, welcome back. See, you don't get an introduction anymore.
How are you?
I am doing great. How are you?
We're doing well up here in Kansas City.
Well, you know, you had told me that you recently went on vacation. How was that? Was that good for you?
This is how we describe it. When someone says, "How was your trip?" We just tell people, and this is the truth. We each said to each other, "I think I could retire here." We were in South Dakota.
Oh, really?
It's just amazing. I'd been in South Dakota, but never Western South Dakota with, just we went to Mount Rushmore and Custer State Park and the Badlands, and it's just amazing. And of course, now since we're home, we're watching Deadwood, the series, because we went to the town of Deadwood. So it was a hit, and the kids loved it. And we rented an RV and kind of Griswold our way up there.
I was just gonna say that. Was it like vacation all over again?
It was. Well, except nobody was fighting.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, that's probably because, it's probably nicer in an RV instead of like a station wagon with the wood paneling, don't you think?
Yeah. Is it okay to like throw out negative comments about certain brands on here?
Sure. Because that's the beauty of podcasting. You can really say anything you want, but I wouldn't
buy a Ford made RV. That's what I'm going to tell you. Spend the extra money and get a Mercedes.
Well, I will ask you this, though. Did you get like astronomically busy? Because, as agents, we always say, if you want to get busy, go out of town.
On the second day, closed a listing that wasn't even on the market yet. Yeah. From the road. Yeah. Of course, that's what happens. Of course it is.
Yeah. That's how we roll as agents. I like to call this show kind of more of a lifestyle real estate show, random. I mean, you can get stats on billions of other podcasts out there, but I can tell you what I know for sure in Dallas. And this is kind of what I wanted to start with, because the last couple of times that you and I have talked, it's been crazy busy, just all of the things that come with multiple offers and then some more, right?
Yeah.
But this is my gut feeling. I think we're slowing a little bit in Dallas as far as the market goes.
I would agree.
How is it there?
I would agree up here. Yeah.
Oh, really? Do you think it's because everybody went to South Dakota and they're just so sick and tired of multiple offers and they finally get the chance to go and see grandma or go to South Dakota or go do something other than the rat race that we live in?
I would say yes, but based on how you introduce me every time we do this, I allegedly know everybody in Kansas City, and I didn't see anybody from Kansas City while I was there. So I don't think everybody went up there. But no, I think it's a lot of factors. I think you're right, and I think one of the factors is just historically this is the time of year because school's getting ready to start, and so a lot of families that wanted to get into a house before school started, if they didn't make it into a house, they kind of now let's put it on hold for X amount of time. I think the prices of homes have something to do with it a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, there's no way we could keep going like we were going. There's just no way.
There really isn't. Because remember, when we talk about this and this seller makes $100,000 over or whatever it was, then they have to go find a house. So it really is that kind of yin and yang kind of thing. Oh, great. Look at me. Look what I have. And then it's like, but I have to spend it to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hard part.
And it might seem like a bad thing that the housing market is slowing down, but bottom line, we need more inventory. And so maybe if a few buyers fall out of the game right now. Maybe that gives inventory a chance to creep up a little bit, which it has up here. I don't know what it's done down there, but we were at about a half a month of inventory at the lowest point, and I think we are over 2 months now. So it is creeping up, whether it's because people are dropping off, because people said, "Oh my gosh, this market's crazy. Let's get in the market and sell our home," even though we weren't planning on it. Those things are all happening, and I think for the end game, I think that's a good thing for the health of the market in general.
But let me ask you this. So now what we're starting to see is from the beginning of the year, right? So appraisers usually look at things that are 3 to 6 months, right? But when we look at some of these, you might have a neighborhood, let's say it was a $300,000 neighborhood, but something got through, and of course they had to bring in money, but there's that one house that got the 450. So what happens is, but all the other ones got 375, right? 300 to 375. That's 350 even. What do you do with this little one out here that happened to hit the jackpot, if you will, the real estate jackpot? Because they all didn't do this. This is what we're seeing I'm seeing in some of our neighborhoods when someone says, "Hey, can you look up some comps for me?" And they're like, "Awesome, I can put it up for 450." I'm like, "Yeah, but."
Yeah, I would probably say two things to that, and the first one is I say it tongue in cheek, but it's really not. Just like there are good auto mechanics and bad auto mechanics.
Don't even go there with me today.
Good doctors and bad doctors.
Exactly.
Maybe there are some appraisers that are more competent than others, and so that can happen. I mean,
no. What I mean is that the people still had to bring in money. The house did not appraise at 450.
Oh, I got
If it's a $300,000, I'm just using this as an example because this does happen, especially in your uppers, you know. But if it's let's just use 300,000. But if one person got that 450 because somebody had some money laying around, so it did not appraise. But that's what you see on the MLS. That's what you see as the sold price. But the rest of the houses might have only gone for 350 or 375.
Yeah. Well, I think you tell them what you just told me. You described the scenario as to what happened. And I think you probably call the agent too. And
I did. Actually.
Why are you an outlier? How much did your client bring to make this appraise?
Significant was what they said. And I buy it. I believe it.
Yeah.
But I didn't, want to go too, because personally, I didn't want to know because I just. But I had to know.
Disclosure when it comes to my clients, though. I'm all about full disclosure, and you don't want them going in with a false sense of what they can or can't do.
But when someone says to me, "It did not appraise at this price," that's all I need to know. That means they had to bring in money, right? So that's what I needed to know at that time. But I do find that very interesting because now we have to make sure that here's how I look at it. When it's the seller's idea to drop the price, that's when they'll drop it, right? Think about that. If you come in and say, my client wants to bid this, but it's below because the house maybe is sitting on the market that big 2 weeks or something, it might not be their idea at that time, but they could maybe go there at one point.
Yeah, and the second part that I was going to talk about too, when I made which is now a relevant joke about appraisers' competence, and I say that I mean I have so many friends that are appraisers, and so I don't want to cast a bad light.
They have a tough job. I'm telling you.
I think too, organically in our industry, this can happen as well when the market is going like it was, and I say was because you're right, it's not quite like it was 2 months ago. I think sometimes agents will fall victim to pricing where they think the house can go and forget that the reason this happened is because sellers or listing agents still priced homes where they should be priced. And that's what causes the frenzy. And so, for instance, that $450,000 house, had they priced it at $450,000,
no way.
I'd bet my next paycheck that they wouldn't have gotten that.
They wouldn't have.
So,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
I think agents have gotten to the point where, in error, they're pricing where they think the market could take them instead of sticking with what got us to to that point of getting our clients the most money they could anyway. And that is sticking with fair market value and where the house should be priced. That's how you get more money for your clients. So
exactly.
I think it's a combination of things, and that's one of them. I think bad pricing by agents is one of them. And that's a big conversation you have to have up front. Yeah, I think we can go to 350. However, if we start at 350, that's not the way it works. People can see through that people have to perceive value when they walk through your front door. And that's how you get
the seller ultimately sets that price. You have to give them the information, and then they want to try it. So I think that's that testing that market. And as long as you've given them the information, then that's where you have to decide which way do you want to go with it. Because are they sincere enough to say, like you said, we will drop this price if it doesn't work? And I always pray I'm wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, we could, what you just said, I think I could talk for an hour about it, and I don't want to do that. But and here's why I say that. Here's why I say that. You have just kind of hit my hot button when it comes to real estate in general, and that is if you look at the top 10 reasons why a house sells, the first 9 are how you price it. They just are. You can have the worst house in a market, you can have the best house in the market. Regardless of what the house is like, what the location is, what condition it's in, you can get the house sold if you price it right. And so back to what you said, it's important that you give all the information to your client in written form with comps and statistics and days on market and price per square foot and all that stuff so they can see it. And you're right. Ultimately, it's their decision. I used to be early on in my career, and Jill, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, where someone says, if your client or potential client is so stubborn that they're not willing to price the home where it needs to be priced, you walk away. I mean, I'm sure you've heard that. I can't sell your house for what you want to get it for. So I used to do that. And I say used to do that. I did it a few times. And I started thinking, I'm not going to do that. So what I do is I will tell somebody, this is where your home needs to be priced. Here's why. And then I explain it and I lay it out. And there's the 30 minutes that I could talk about the next 30 minutes, but I won't.
That'll be the next show, folks.
Yeah. Right. But then I tell them, however, if you really feel strongly that this is where you want to go in at, I'm fine. Let's do that. I hope you're right. And I hope you get it, but I want it on the record. Here's what I said when we're 3 weeks into this and the house hasn't sold yet and we're doing price reductions. So I don't walk away from that scenario anymore, but I make it clear what my thoughts and feelings are. Our team talks about this all the time. We will not walk away from a listing, but our thoughts have to be on the table. So 3 weeks when you're still on the market, it's in their lap and not your lap.
And sometimes how I say it is, I can market something all day long, but if it's not where it needs to be, then there's no reason really to do it. If we are marketing it and it's doing it, what it's, you have it out there and it's not getting that feedback or anything like it. Now, I will say this, here in Dallas, still, the houses that still can get that are the ones I think that have been touched in every room. Like you literally walk in and feel like it's just completely done for you, if you will. But I'm talking everything. I'm talking every bathroom. I'm talking the pool. I'm talking the roof. I'm talking the, whatever.
Yeah, when the market has more than half a month of inventory, it's a beauty contest. I mean, it really is.
Oh, Mike, that's perfect.
Yeah, it's a price war and a beauty contest. And if you can't win either one, you're never going to sell the house.
Absolutely. That's right. Sure. I never thought about that. Now I'm going to put crowns on all my listings.
Write that down. Beauty contest.
Is this beautiful enough for you?
Yeah. And you can't. And that don't get me going on that. I mean, we have increased by like 5,000 agents in the last 2 years because of how the market is. I am just waiting for the day when the market gets back to a normal market and you actually have to work to sell a house and price it properly and make 500 phone calls and market it and do all this stuff, because there's 30% of the agents out there don't know really what it takes to sell a house. Because right now we've gone through this period of stick a sign in the front yard and the thing sells, and then you get their Instagram photo, 8 offers, 50,000 over ask. Well, if you didn't do that, everybody's doing that. Who cares? Call me in 2 years when the market levels out and you actually have to work to sell a house. I mean, I can't wait for that time to come back.
That's what I say, because when I first started, it was like, okay, I need you to build a room addition, stand on your head. Here's my firstborn. What else do you want, right?
Yep.
That brings me to an interesting point, though, because there's independent agents like us with a broker, but there are also now all of these big companies, which we've talked about before. They're everywhere, and I find them interesting. But for example, when I listed my home about 3 years ago, I just called them for fun, and they gave me $43,000 lower than what I actually got. And I don't know about you, but I will get my butt off the couch and get my big old German Shepherd out of the house for $43,000 a few times.
Sure.
That's just me. And I had a young kid at the time. So again, I would do that. And then when I was talking to this person, they were telling me stuff, and I said, well, wait a minute. I mean, that sounds awfully high for your fees once you really look at it. And they were like, well, that's the cost of doing business. And I thought, but my cost of doing business is usually less than yours. So why would we get pushback? And why are these companies, somehow seemingly to get bigger? And then I think sometimes when people go into them, they don't have that love touch either, from when you walk in and you feel like a seller lives there.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say my first thought to this whole trend of bigger companies coming in, and I've heard they've come in and try to buy out whole subdivisions. And here's my thought. The old is forever new. Everybody's heard that comment. And if you are not taking care of your database right now, when this stuff is happening, I think the part of the market that is affected most when these big companies come in, or somebody comes and makes a cash offer, maybe a little undervalued, but you're out and done, as opposed to what the scenario with your dog and everything you just described. Yeah, it's worth $43,000 to do this and that. I think if you're not taking care of your database at this point, the people that potentially agents lose in that scenario you're describing with the big companies are the leads that you're buying. We do buy some leads on our team. It's that space or that subset of buyers, I think, or buyers and sellers that are most affected, where they're grabbed up by these large companies.
And I think there's a need in some cases. Maybe you haven't been able to do the things you want to do to your house, and maybe it is a house that you got to go. You're ready to go for whatever reason. I'll give you a little example real quick. Of what happened and how I got a chance to get my FHA buyer. And did you hear what I said? I got an FHA buyer through. Let me straighten my cape out on that one. But what happened was a big company came through and made this huge promise, right? Then what they did is they came back and they pretty much wanted, all new windows on this house, and they wanted the concrete in the front yard redone. And it was astronomical. And so the seller was like, wait a minute, all that money you just gave me, you just took it back. That's weird, right? And so they terminated that contract, and we kind of swooped in and, did, a little bit over, but we also, didn't, it was a nice house. Didn't ask for we asked for a couple of repairs, that whole thing. And bingo, bango, bongo, we made it through in 30 days. So I think sometimes the too goods to be true. I've gotten those offers before and will accept them as seller will accept them because they look so great. And then it comes back. So sometimes I think that realistic sellers can be more realistic with an independent agent sometimes because this is what we have to offer instead of, oh yeah, we're going to offer you this. And then we're going to take it all back.
Yep. No, I would agree. I think you're spot on.
Well, dang, check one off for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And there's a lot of different companies that do it. Some do it to come in and they want rental revenue all over the place. That's an easy one for me. I just if your seller is entrenched with their neighborhood, all you have to do is say, do you really want to do that to your neighbors that you've known for 20 years? Turn this into a rental nightmare. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do.
There really is.
And I think that's why it's important to just the portion of where we get our business is not going to be affected by those people. And that's our database. And whether you have, 50 people in it, 400 or 4,000, if they are your army on the street and they support you and they ride or die with you no matter what, I mean, those big companies aren't going to be a factor. I think where it's going to come, and I say that, and it just comes into my head a couple of years ago. I know one of the guys that does that in our city for a national company, and I think I sold three listings to him because they were not in good condition, and they came in, they gave a cash price in and out in 2 weeks, and it was the best thing for my client. Had it not been the best thing, I wouldn't have done it, but I think there's a place for him.
No, I'm with you on that, because my company we have iBuyer solutions as well, because maybe that's what you need. But sometimes it's like when they really read that fine print, they have to know. They have to know that this is before you get to that, and just accepting the offer is one thing, but you've got to get it to the closing table. And if it keeps coming back that suddenly all of a sudden you're out of a lot of money, then you can't move on. Yeah. So I just think it's, and then you brought something else up, which gets me to that buyer representation or seller or listening. You have clients that you got to the closing table and they trust you, but then sometimes you've got clients that when you first start out with them, they don't know if they want to sign a buyer rep with you. They don't know yet. And you have to let them know how important that is. I always say, you can't walk into a lawyer's office and say, hey, I need some advice. They're going to give you a little bit, and then they're going to say, you better sign these papers before I give you any more. And by the way, on your way out, get your retainer fee set up. And when people say, usually you go into a lawyer's office because it's that important. And people always say, well, buying a house is the most important thing ever. It's the most important financial decision. It can be an investment now. There's all kinds of great things about home ownership. But yet people will go, hey, can you show me this house? Sure, let me ask you. No, I just want to see it, ma'am. Oh, okay. But let me qualify you. I can't just bring you into somebody's house if I don't know if this or that, those kind of things. I don't know who you are. Could be walking into a trap. But on something like this, it's when it's that important. So I sometimes think that maybe they just don't know. They don't understand the realtor etiquette or how our standard operating procedures are.
Yeah, I think it's gotten harder in the last few years too, because we are in a right now environment, and you might get a call from someone and say, can you go out and show me this house? And that's a right now demand. And there's no time to sit down, and if you're not willing to do it, they'll call somebody that is. So, but are they just calling you because they already have an agent, and that agent's busy and didn't set up a backup or something like that? Well, you have to ask that question. That's the one question that I will ask. And I will ask, and they say no. They can answer that without signing any paperwork, and if they say yes, I say, well, your agent must not be doing a good job. Well, here's my name and number. You obviously have it. Give me a call when you find somebody that really wants to work for you. And then for the people that haven't, or you haven't gotten to that point, that's one thing. But to just jump up off the couch, I think that's hard to do. I mean, I can't do that anymore. But I just don't. If you ask the right questions, I'll tell you. You can find out. This happened one time. Somebody said something like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. And have you spoken with that? Oh, my Uncle Fred's a lender. I'm like, oh my gosh. What do you think my next question was? Of course it was. It was, but Uncle Fred, don't you think he has an agent well, yeah, but she's busy. And I was like, hey, sweetie, let's move on. Call her or call her brokerage and see what else you can do, because I don't want to step on anybody else's toes. That's my whole thing, really. I think there's also realtor etiquette. That's important. Yep. And it is. It's not fair to them, because I could come back and say, yeah, but I'm the one that showed him this house. That's procuring cause, right? Yeah. And then it becomes difficult now, though. It's difficult now because like during this period where houses are selling in a day and they've got 8 offers, we are training or coaching our clients to say, when one house pops up that you need to see, we need to go. Because if we can't wait 3 days because it'll be under contract. So
but those are the people you're already working with, though. That's what I mean.
Correct.
I'm not, that first one. I got to go see it now. Okay, yeah, I'd love to help you, but let me qualify you first to make sure. Because if you're an FHA loan, this house isn't going FHA, right? Yep. Or I don't know if you know this, but this is a cash-only house. Oh, okay, right? So I think there are certain questions that you want to say. And then I tell people, I'd love to meet you for coffee. Maybe that might help. Because the difference is, do you want to be a customer or you want to be a client?
Right.
So if you're my customer and you say, hey, Jill, I need you to leave your family today and show me this house. Okay, great. And then you come back and you say, well, the agent's already told me that there are 20 overlist offers. And they say, okay, well, can you write it for 20 grand less? Well, if I have a buyer rep with you, guess what my job is? To write it. If I don't, technically, I don't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, that would be a tough one.
It is. I've been there, Mike. How do you think I know?
I think we all have.
Yeah.
We push for buyers agencies immediately, but sometimes it just doesn't work out that way too.
Well, I think a lot of my referrals, I get a lot of referrals. It's a little bit different because you talk to them and then they're comfortable with you. They know that there's a process. And I think that's what's important for people to know, because we, as an agent, I want to represent you correctly. And there is a difference. And sure, you can go through the whole thing without a buyer rep. You've got proof. You can show procuring, all of that stuff. But when it comes down to is time is very valuable. I mean, I couldn't get my computer hooked up and I felt bad. And then I've wasted, 3 minutes of someone's time, happened to be yours. But
and I think a good thing you can do in that scenario too is if you do have questions or you do have hesitancies, but we know the market's a right now market. Yep, I'll meet you there. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring a buyer's agency with me. We will look at this house and then we're going to sign it up. And if we don't get the house, we're going to go through the process. So that's something you can do too.
And then there's something about, that little thing called trust.
Yeah.
Trust has got to be there. And I think we all know how that works. I'd love to help. If another agent said, hey, can you go show my house and we can work something out? But absolutely. I'm all in. But
this reminds me of this is actually pretty funny.
What?
I saw on social media the other day a picture of a guy and a real estate agent in, the classic cheesy real estate pose. And his caption underneath was, know your worth and then add tax. And to me, I just laughed at that, and I think we're actually going to do a little social media post where our team is all in these classic real estate poses, and we might try to find some $150,000 sports car to put in the background, and one person's looking off in the distance talking on the telephone, and then the next picture will be us in our normal clothes, normal people, and you choose who you want to work with, someone that cares about you or someone that cares about themselves. So
exactly. You know what? Very good point. Yeah.
Know your worth, add tax. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, we our time is valuable. We're valuable, but we're kind of in a right now market. Yeah. We're in a right now market, and you have to consider that too. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But so is theirs. Their time is important too. And I think that if we don't have that communication, because here's what I say: if I don't have all the facts, one of which might be you have an agent, I can't help you. Right? If I don't have all the facts about this or that, the thing is, and that's why a lawyer or anywhere else, your CPA, anywhere else that you go, they have to have the facts or they cannot help you correctly.
Yeah, and I think when you bring that up, Jill, that question about do you have an agent you've worked with? Are you signed to an agent right now? I think by saying that too, you are immediately drawing your ethical line, and you are telling that person indirectly, I have a high moral compass deep inside me, and I'm asking you that question because I would hope in turn if I had somebody approached by another agent, I hope they would ask that same question of my client as well.
Because what if this person, male or female, had shown you 2 or 3 houses? I mean, two or 3 days worth of houses, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in one day, and they have little kids at home, or they have to feed their dog or pay their rent, and they're counting on this. See, you have to remember, everybody's not making bazillion dollars like you see on Facebook, but if they're counting on that, and then I showed you a few houses, you liked it, I got on my high horse and said, oh, they signed one with me too. What you gonna do about that? No way. Yeah. I would feel horrible because I wouldn't want someone to do that for me, especially in my early years when I had just moved here, young son, remarried. I mean, didn't have much, right? But I had to get out there and hustle, and that would be devastating.
So let me ask you a tricky question, Jill. Here's a tricky question.
All right.
Would you say that, so the way you describe that, you are ethically following the rules in our business about who can talk to whom with regard to if someone's signed with an agent or not. So do you think do you think our view on this, do you think it's the norm, or do you think we're the exception? Especially as competitive as the market is right now.
I think that, it's like you said, there's a line somewhere. There's that. I think when you don't have all the facts, you can't make a decision on whether to take that person out or not. Do you see what I mean?
So yeah, but do you really think that most people do you think it's the norm that most people ask if they're affiliated with another agent?
Oh, I think you mean, do a lot agents ask that question normally? Yeah. Now I do, absolutely. Yeah. Don't you? I mean, I know all my friends do.
I agree. Yeah.
And I do. I try to ask it in a little bit different way. So, and usually I can catch them off guard, and I hear them go, and then I know, and I'm like, the only reason I'm doing this is because I don't want to step on somebody else's toes, and I don't want to be put in a position where I'm writing up a contract and somebody calls me and they're like, excuse me, I've been showing these people properties for blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And it's important. I think you're right. I agree with you. I think most agents are like that. And I think,
but also in answer to your question, on the flip side of that, there's a portion that, no, I don't think they care. I don't. But most of us, 80%, I'd say yes.
It's sad because it takes your whole career to create your reputation.
Exactly.
And it takes one day to destroy it.
Yeah. I mean, again, and the reason I have so much knowledge on that is because I know. I mean, that happened to me right before somebody closed. They didn't care. They made money off their old house through me, a lot of it, and they decided at the last minute they didn't want this. They lost their earnest money, but 2 weeks prior, they were looking with someone else. Oh, we'll call you back, we promise. I had the buyer rep and everything. Could I have taken that to task? Absolutely. Don't think, though, I might not. No, wait a minute. That's not what I'm saying here. But do you see where I'm going with that? In that was a hard lesson to learn. And I had earmarked that money for, my son's, when I take him on his gymnastics trips and all of that. And it brought me to my knees, quite frankly. And it and we're all sharing here. Yeah, it hurt like hell. But I will say that I learned a lot from that and reading the signs. And so that's why I'm not saying it to throw anyone under the bus. I'm saying sometimes we have to think beyond whatever business it is. And I think that's one of the things that this show is about. Sometimes we just talk about things as if I'm talking to you. It's a phone call, agent to agent or friend to friend. Because, wow, why would this happen? Why would someone do that? And that's why I think maybe they just didn't know. Kind of think they knew. But in most cases, I want to say that, I'm supposed to just, as soon as you call me or I'm looking online, then that it's 1-800-call an agent. But it's really not. So are you looking for a house or are you looking for an agent? That's two different things.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mike, oh my gosh, we're already over time. But
are we?
Yeah, we're on a roll.
I had so much based on your what we were going to talk about. I actually had a lot more I could talk
well, guess
today,
what?
That'll be a next time.
Guess what? Absolutely. I would love it. Please come back. Promise?
I will.
You know what, though? You guys, just so you know, I usually have to ask him 15 times. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, if you don't take my phone calls, I'll understand why.
Well, now that vacations are over, I mean, I'm free. We can do it whenever you want.
You got it. You got it. Because I really do think that having an agent that is, you're a client, not a customer. I think that is the way to go, especially on a crazy journey of what we have to deal with in real estate, because we see so much. And I'm going to plug those full-time agents out there too. The full-time agents, they do it every day. They get it done, and they can make it happen for you because they see over and over again what's going on in the market every single day. So I'll plug us. Okay, well, thanks so much for joining me and Mike today. Please show that love and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for tuning into For the Love of Real Estate. If you enjoyed today's show, head over to fortheloveofrealestate.biz to join the conversation, access the show notes, and sign up for our newsletter.